Pastor Marla here, coming to you with this week's Fireside Chat. Throughout this season of Lent, we've been talking on Wednesdays about some of the people in the Bible and stories of their lives and how our lives are similar in some ways to theirs. The story I'm going to lift up to us today to think about is the story of Ruth. You may know that Ruth was a young woman who was widowed and ended up making a very kind of famous pledge to her mother-in-law. She said, "Do not press me to leave you or turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me and more, if even death parts me to you." She is lifted up as a person who showed incredible loyalty to this woman, her mother-in-law. But I think what is really at work in this situation is people who are going through a tough time, helping one another out as they go through that tough time, and looking to God to guide them, and God being there to help them when they need it the most. The situation that prompted this whole exodus from the place where Ruth and her mother-in-law Naomi was a famine. It was a situation where all the men in the family had been killed, Naomi's husband, Ruth's husband, and also his brother. The three people who were in a position to help the women in the family, in this case, be supported, all had died. And so they needed to make a change. Difficult times call for difficult actions. And I think in this situation, you had a situation where people decided that it was important to stand together. One of the things that was interesting is that Ruth chose not to go back to her parents' home, where it had been more of a pagan religion, but she chose to stay with Naomi. She had been living for 10 years in that household of a Jewish family, a family that worshiped God, and she had seen what a difference that made in people's lives. And so when she says, "Your God will be my God," that's a really powerful statement. God worked through Ruth and through Naomi. They went back to Naomi's homeland, to actually the town of Bethlehem, and there they were able to start a life together. They were able to work through family members, and there was kind of an interesting scene that happened on the threshing room floor as a way to kind of bring Ruth together with the man who would be her husband, Boaz. Many of us here in Emmanuel are familiar with threshing. It's something that gets celebrated every year at our annual threshing festival. But it was a place where people come together, and it was a place in this situation where God was at work in bringing people together to be married. And ultimately, Ruth and the man that she married, Boaz, conceived the baby who became the grandfather of King David. So it was interesting how God was at work in their lives. As we are meeting here today, it's St. Patrick's Day. It's a day that we think about that patron saint who himself had lived a really difficult life. He had been a slave for a number of years, and then he became a missionary, and he was able to convert the man who had been his slave owner, and then many, many more people, because he knew the culture in the area. And he's been celebrated since then. Many of the Irish people who have come to the United States came because of a great famine, a really difficult time that set people in motion, moving about the world. Kind of like what had happened for Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi. Difficult circumstance that caused them to migrate. If you think back to your own family, I would imagine you would find that somebody migrated here to the U.S., very likely out of a situation of real need, and that those needs are what prompted them to seek out a new life. And I bet you would find that God was at work in their life, working through them, working through neighbors, as they helped one another in difficult circumstances. I believe we're going through a difficult time right now. I guess I don't have to tell you that. This last year has been a really challenging year. But God has been at work in this whole whole situation and in each of our lives. And I believe he will continue to be at work for each one of us. And as we show that loyalty to him, as we show that faith in him, and as we help one another, God will work through us in powerful ways. I'd like to leave you today on this with the Irish blessing for St. Patrick's Day. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.